Hey everybody, what's going on? Got the old Mongo man out here in Mongo's garage, and I hear you want to ruin your life. Let's talk about it, huh? You've reached that point in your life that you got a little bit of extra money laying around and you think you may want to buy a project car. Well, I'm here to tell you that there is no better way to spend money than on a project car. We're going to talk about all the points of where that money is going to get spent and how you can better prepare yourself for this process. So the first thing, of course, is you got to find the car. Where are you going to find a project car that someone has already poured their heart and soul into this thing, time and money, and now has just given up on it? Marketplace on Facebook. That's where all car dreams start and die. Now, you're kind of probably wondering to yourself, well, what do you mean, start and die? Let's think about your case. Right now, you're dreaming about a cool car that you can cruise around, show off to your friends, maybe run downtown, right? You've got a dream. Started right here at Marketplace. The guy's car that you're looking at, his dream's over. It has come to an end. He has spent the money and it's just time to move on. So that's why I say that Facebook Marketplace is where all dreams come to start and come to die. Now, if you're anything like Kenny and I, you're going to be looking for one specific model, year, or make of car. Kenny and I are mostly Ford guys, Super Duties. Right now, I'm looking at 72 Rancheros, which that's a whole long story. Someday we may get to build one, if I find one good enough to build. But what you're going to be looking for is what you're after. Now, if you're really adventurous, the big thing to do would be to just simply type in the search field, project car. If you type in project car, you're going to get to see all kinds of sorts of different projects that have been given up on. Things that guys have started and either lost interest in, ran out of money. There are projects there per se that the gentleman who or the lady that was working on it has passed away and just never was able to finish their project. So you really got to be careful with these ads because there's about 3 different types of ads that you're going to see on Marketplace. There's just the regular Joe Schmo that's out there trying to sell his stuff. He doesn't know a whole bunch about it. He did spend a bunch of money and he can show you all the receipts for everything that he bought. Then there's going to be the guy that just lists one picture and simply says, hey, this thing was parked. It ran when it was parked and I don't know much more about it. So he had a dream. He probably spent a bunch of money on parts, never got around to putting them in, and now he's kind of stuck where he's at, trying to get rid of it. And then you're going to have the professional flipper, which is kind of what KJ and I have been doing. We buy these things, we put them together, and then we sell them. Professional flipper is going to do something that could be all the way through and sell you the finished product, or like we did to the Charger, it's going to be something that, hey, we got it to run, we now know it runs and moves and stops. Here you go. Maybe less one hood, but you've got it back. By the way, I'm looking for a 1973 Charger hood, preferably one with a Powerball. If you've got one for sale, let us know, please. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and check that video out in the Stormtrooper video series. So while you're looking for this project car, you're going to notice that prices fluctuate everywhere. There's going to be the super expensive and there's going to be the really cheap. And what's going to happen is those really cheap projects, the ones that are once in a lifetime finds, they're going to go right away. And chances are that guy isn't going to get back to you immediately because his inbox is just completely stacked full of people just like you trying to get a deal on a project car and have found his ad and are just completely inundating him with instant messages. And then you're going to have the guy on the other end of the spectrum that's asking way too much for the car. And you'll find some of those cars on the little shorts that I do called Is It Worth It? But to each his own, because that car may be worth that much money. Your job here is going to be to understand what you're looking at and what you've got going on. So now that you've gotten all the way through the decision making and you're finding the car, it's time to go look at this thing, right? So when you go look at the car, what I need you to do is be 100% ready to buy. Don't go out there looking at a project vehicle and not have the money that you're about to offer the guy. A deal usually can be made with cash in hand and right there at that time when you go to look at it. Now, KJ, he likes to go with a trailer. He'll go somewhere. Let's talk about the bullnose that he just bought, the Dually, Ed. He took the trailer with him. He was probably 90% sure he was going to buy that truck, and boom, he bought it on the spot, loaded it, and away he went. Me, on the other hand, I like to go look at these things, start to understand what it is, whether I want to buy it or not. Now, if it's a far trip away, just take the trailer with you. That way you only have to go one time. For Casper, this truck was clear up in Tionesta, which was about a 2-hour ride for us. We didn't take the trailer the first time, and he didn't buy it that first time, but he eventually convinced himself that he needed it, and Kenny did buy the truck. 100%, you have to have cash in your hand. Without cash, you cannot do the next step. And that next step is very important to whether your project is going to be successful or not. So now, the next step in this process is the negotiation. And I'm telling you, you need to negotiate your butt off. And why am I saying that? Because that initial price that you pay for this vehicle or this project is going to set the standard of what you can do to it later. If you overpay in the beginning, granted, if there's a lot of parts and a lot of things in the project, maybe you can overpay a little bit because there's worth there. However, if it's something that you really want, but he wants maybe a little bit too much money for it, I'm telling you, walk away, because it's only going to burn you in the long run. You're not going to have enough cash or moolah to finish that project, and you're going to end up in the same exact situation that he's in right now. You're going to get almost there, you're not going to have enough cash, it just isn't going to happen. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are negotiating your butt off right at the beginning of this process so that you can ensure its completion. You do not want to replace reality with dreams, just like I talked about. Whenever you're looking at this thing, you're seeing this car done. You're seeing it well past the stage that it's currently at. You're understanding what you want to do to it. That's all going to come at a cost. Your labor, your parts, your time, all of that, none of it's free, right? My time isn't free, your time isn't free. We have to understand the investment we're going to put into this car or this project before you ever go out there and decide what you're going to do. Now, what tends to happen in these situations, in my case, I'm looking for a 72 Ranchero. I'm willing to understand that maybe I'm not going to find the best one that's out there because I'm a cheapskate, let's face it. I also can't allow my abilities of being able to put just about anything back together overstep the value of the car. Yes, I might still buy a car that's garbage and needs 14,000 patches put into it or whatever, but it's going to be a super cheap deal. It's not going to be a car that's super expensive that I'm going to overpay for. So you need to understand what you're looking at versus what you're dreaming about. What you're looking at is definitely the beginning of what you're dreaming about. However, don't let your dreams replace the reality of what that vehicle currently is. Because if you do, you're only going to burn yourself later down the road. So next up is going to be the cost to complete the project. Now, in this situation, some of these numbers that I'm about to tell you, you're going to say are way off base. But I'm telling you, listen to what I'm saying here. We haven't purchased the vehicle. We're still in the planning stages, right? So we talked about negotiation, and that's a process that could happen over a day, a 2-day. It could happen right there the first time you go look at it with your trailer. But what I want you to understand is in this process, you need to set a budget for yourself. Because without a budget, again, you're just going to blow this thing completely out of the water, and you're only going to create enemies along the way. Don't fool yourself about what it's going to cost to get this thing done. What I like to do is I figure up everything at a decent price of what I think it currently would be. Once I'm done with that list, times 0.75. 75% more of a budget than what you think it's going to be. And why 75%, you're saying? Why so much higher? Why almost double? Because it's going to be 75% by the time you get done with it. Let's face it. If you're anything like me, if you're anything like Kenny, you're going to get into this thing and you're going to say to yourself, well, I'm only 25 more minutes or another hour into it to get the cab off of it. Well, taking the cab off, now I've got another $100 in fluid. You know, I'm going to find other things that need fixed. There's going to be additional costs as you go through this. So 75% is my staple number. Once I figure up that budget and I'm budgeting something, 75%, and then I look at that number and I decide, can I afford to build this? Can I afford to go forward with this project? 9 times out of 10, you're going to say, there ain't no way. Then, at that point, don't just give up on your dreams. You need to lower your expectations a little bit. That's all. We all watched Roadkill. We watched David Freiberger and Finnegan put these things together and just get them out there. I think one of Freiberger's things is just make it run, don't make it right, right? Yeah, okay, I get that. But depending on what you're after, that can be a stage. That can be a part of this process. Getting it running, not making it right, and then enjoying it for a little bit to even decide whether or not you like it. We'll talk about that in a little bit because that is one of the steps coming up. So now you have decided, yes, I can afford the project. I have enough money. I'm ready to do this. You need to learn as much as you possibly can about this car or this truck when you're with the seller. You need to know everything he knows and then some. You need to get his phone numbers and you need to tell him, hey, I'm going to text you when I'm looking through this stuff and I'm going to ask you questions. I don't want to come off as the guy that's going to bug you to death, but I need to know as much about what your intentions were and why you bought these parts the way you did and where it's at currently. The more you learn about this, the better off you're going to be in what you're going to end up spending and how the project is going to progress. You're going to run into situations where the seller just doesn't have the answers. That situation is going to be, let's say the gentleman or the lady that was working on it has passed away and their child or brother or sister is selling this thing. In those situations, you're going to be stuck being a private investigator. You're going to have to really take a look at this thing and try to decipher what was going on, what that initial builder's thoughts were, where he was headed with it, where she was headed with it, so that you can understand what it's going to take to get it to where you want it to be, which are probably going to be two completely different things, right? Because let's face it, not everybody looks at a project the same way. Not everybody wants the same thing out of the same project. All right, so now that you've learned absolutely everything that you possibly can about the project, you've quizzed the PO or the PO's significant other or whomever it may be about everything that you possibly can on this car or truck, you need to find every piece and every part and every bolt that could possibly belong to that project while you're at the PO's house, garage, shop, storage unit, wherever this thing's coming from. You need to look around. Let me tell you why. During that process, as you're loading this truck or car or project, there may be some obscure part laying somewhere that is made of unobtainium that you'll not be able to find anywhere else. Yet, boom, right there it is on the guy's bench who was tearing it apart, and it's just laying there. It's a part of your project, but it's not with it. It's over there, or it's over here. And in that process, you're going to save yourself countless time, countless money, in the fact that you thought enough to grab that part and put it in the box with all the other parts. Because right there it is. It's off of this car. It's off of this truck. It is part of this project. And spend the time after you load everything to walk through and check everything out. If the buyer will allow you, I would even go as far as to do a physical inventory of what you have as you're loading it. Now, chances are that's not going to be the case and they're just going to want you to throw everything you can, but take the time, 15, 20 minutes after you're done, walk through the whole place, say, hey, I want to make sure I'm getting everything that goes with this car or truck so that whenever I go back together, I have everything and I don't have to worry about going out and trying finding something that's just not available anymore. A piece of trim, a bolt, a nut, exhaust parts, stuff like that. All right, so the next 2 points I'm going to make are related to one another. However, they are significantly different. First off, you need to inventory everything that you ended up with from the purchase. The car, the engine, the transmission, all the parts, all the boxes. Go through absolutely everything you got. Open the box, look at it, figure out what it is, write it down. 100% write it down. When you're done, inventory and writing down absolutely everything that you have. I'm gonna bring it out. I have an inventory of whenever we did the Charger. I went through and I wrote down every part. I then went to the internet, found that part, and deciphered what it was, where it went. That is going to help you as you put this car together. It's also going to help you understand what you need moving forward. Now, as part of that inventory, what you need to do is you need to inspect everything. Yes, just because it's in a brand new box doesn't mean it's brand new. I have seen, especially like with the Charger, we had a brand new box that had a used part in it. Now, I had to use that used part because that was something that we had, that we didn't have, yada, yada. But what you need to do is you need to inspect everything. Is it even for this project? Is it just something that maybe the PO said, throw it in the box and it's for, you know, a Tri-5 Chevy, and you're putting together a Super Duty pickup truck. Who knows? I've seen crazy stuff. In that Charger, there was, what was there in there? There were some obscure parts in the Charger that did not belong to the Charger, but yet they were there. So make sure you inspect everything. Make sure that you go through that inspection and understand what everything is, whether it can be used or not, whether it's in good enough condition. Some of these project cars, let's face it, have been probably sitting 10, 15 years. Carburetors, fuel pumps, water pumps. We just saw it with the Charger. Like I said, water pump was leaking from the weep hole as soon as we put it together. So these are the things that you need to know up front. And that inspection from the inventory is going to let you know what's going on with that. So everything up to this point, the car is now at your house. You've gone through all the boxes. Everything's here. You understand what's in front of you. You understand what you need. But here we go. It's time to start working on the thing. Put this doggone car or truck together just like it is. Chances are you're building a car that you've never driven, or that you think you've created this idea in your head of how this car is going to drive. I'm here to tell you that it doesn't drive anything like you think it's gonna. Case in point, the Charger that we had in here, 1969 Dodge Charger. Chad wanted to build that pretty much all of his adult life, ever since I've known him anyway. And he had the opportunity to take, it was a 68 or 9, 444 speed for a ride. He called me immediately after doing that and said, I'm selling the Charger. I said, are you out of your mind? You have the holy grail of muscle cars and you want to sell it? He said, listen, I drove this car and I do not like it. I'm like, okay, let's talk. So he didn't like the drivability. He said it was a boat. Have you looked at the 69 Charger? They are a boat. I mean, they're huge. I had the rotisserie extended all the way out to get that thing on it. So they're huge cars. We put these ideas in our heads of what this stuff should have or could drive like, and that's not always the case. Is a figment of our imagination. So if you have an opportunity, put this thing together. Get it all the way back together to where you can jump in it, fire it up, and away you go. Now you can understand whether or not you're gonna really dump your heart and soul in this thing. Is it what you want it to be? Now, in this process, you're also gonna be able to work out the parts that you need, the parts that you have, how everything works together, because let's face it, a lot of this stuff is going to be aftermarket. We saw me struggle with the front end of that Chrysler simply because it was a Chinese front cover, it was a Chinese accessory drive with an American-made alternator, and then I went and got an American-made water pump. So these things don't always work together. It's not all, happy when you bolt it together. You have to make it happy. So putting this thing together and being able to take it out on a test drive, go on a hell run with it, see what it's all about, whether you like it or not, whether you're going to take the time to go to the next step. Now we're going to talk about starting to put some serious time and money into this car. All right, so right now, you are where I am with my BOV1, with my 1985 Bronco. You've put it all together. You've taken it out. You've run it around a little bit. You've decided it's gutless. It needs a different transmission. The tires and wheels are too big. It's too far off the ground. It's whatever, right? You've made these decisions, and now it's time to decide, are you going to go the next step and really dump it into this thing and put your time and effort and money into it? Or are you at this point going to say, hey, marketplace, I bought this project car. It's time to go because I don't want to finish it, and try and recoup your money. And chances are, if it's all together and it's running in a roadkill state, like Freiberger or Finnegan would put it back together, chances are it's going to sell. Because somebody else out there is going to do the same thing. Only that is their dream car. That's one thing that you have to understand in the car industry, is there is a but for every seat, no matter what. KJ has proven it to me time and time again selling these things. Like I told him when we were selling Pat, there's somebody out there that really is going to love that truck for what it is. You just need to find them. And he found them. So it's just a part of what happens there. So you're to that point, and you've now decided, okay, I'm going to the next step. Tear it back apart. Every nut and bolt, tear that thing back down, get it to where you can really dig into it, clean everything up, paint everything, get it where it has to be. In this stage, you also get to go through and do all the fabrication that you want to do. If you want to change the suspension, like Chad, on that 69 Charger, we're not putting that thing back together as a stock 69 Charger. We're getting rid of the torsion bars, which Lord only knows why Mopar ever used torsion bars in the first place. We're going to put QA1 suspension under it. We're going to do a leaf springs in the back, and we're going to coilovers on a 4-link. So that's going to change the way that car handles for him. Now, it still isn't going to be a modern Charger. By no means will it ever be a modern Charger, but it's a 1969 Dodge Charger. It's not made to be that newer car. So in that teardown process, you're also going to be able to do the body work that it needs, sandblasting, cleaning, paint prep. And this is the process that the better you do this job, the better this project's going to end up in the end. Make sure you label everything as you tear it apart, but you're going to know this car inside and out before it's all said and done. So most of this stuff is just going to come second nature to you whenever you go back to putting it together the second time, because it will literally be the second time. If you're a perfectionist, this is where you get to geek out on this thing. You get to do, in the nth degree of detail work so that it can be what you want it to be. And that's what it is. This is that point. This is where you get to put your mark on this car or truck. This is where you get to do what you want to do with it. So it's off to paint and powder now. Everything is apart, everything is done, all of the fabrication work's done, the suspension's how you want it, everything's done. Paint and powder, you need to decide, are you going to do the work or are you going to send it out? There is a huge difference in the cost, whether you do it or whether someone else does it. Let's face it, paint today is not cheap. You are going to spend an arm and a leg on just the paint, let alone the labor to do the paint. Now, this is the part where most projects die, because whoever's building it is not a paint man. Whoever's building it doesn't have the paint or have the money to put that $10,000 paint job on. Maybe you don't want that $10,000 paint job. That's gonna, it's all what you want this thing to be in the end. And you already understand what you want because you've gone through all these other stages. So paint and powder and chrome really depends on the finished project and what you want out of this thing at the end. How much time and effort and money you're going to put into it to get the desired product at the end of everything that you do. So now you get to put it back together. And again, the perfectionist, this is where you get to geek out. You get to do all the little things that really make the car what it is, the detail work that makes something stand apart from other projects. During this process of putting that car back together after paint and powder and chrome, you need to make sure that you don't rush into this. Now, granted, it's at the very end and you're getting antsy, you want to see this thing done, but I'm telling you, slow down, make sure you're doing it right, make sure everything is going back together the way that you intended it to, because if you don't, you're not going to be happy with the project when you're through with it. So it's all back together. Boom, there it is. Now you have the car that you've always dreamed about or that you dreamt about and you attempted to bring to life. There's something to be said about that. Not everybody can do that. The guy that you bought this thing off of couldn't. I would say 75% of people out there, probably more than that. I don't know. Who knows? But not everybody can do what you just did. Put that entire car back together, nut and bolt, as you wanted it to be. Whether it's Concours Restoration or whether it's Restomod. It could even stay as a roadkill car. I don't care. It's your car. It's not for me to say what you want, right? Because it is your car. You're the one spending the money. You're the one that has all the time invested in the project. The big decision now for you is going to be keep it or sell it. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I hear you. But if you're anything like me, the list of cars that I want to own is way too long for me to own any one car for a specific amount of time. Now, the one vehicle that I probably will have until the day I die and then maybe bury me in it or drag me off to the cemetery is going to be that Bronco. And that's not necessarily because I love it that much. It's just because I've done so much to it that I'm afraid of selling it. Now, if I could find the right guy who understands that everything I've done to it and is willing to take that liability on, I probably will end up selling it. Just because, let's face it, it's a 1-ton Bronco on leaf springs. The thing is going to ride like a hay wagon, And I've already proven it up on the hill. It doesn't articulate because it's all 1-ton springs. It's just not gonna be, that super flexy kind of rock crawly thing, but it's gonna be a cool looking ride, and it's gonna be all right. It's just, here we are. It's because of time and money. It's not really turning into what I wanted it to be. 306, 100%. That's everything I wanted it to ever be. Would I like a 460? Not in this build, because this is a purpose-built vehicle. So those are the things, and you've got to be very careful about your friends and telling them what you're doing, because they're going to try and talk you out of some of the crazy stuff you want to do. Let me tell you. My decision of putting a 306 in that Bronco, everybody tried to talk me out of it. But let me tell you what, that is one of the coolest things about that Bronco right now, is the fact that I stayed with the 306. And once we get back into it here shortly, you'll understand. I think you will anyway. It's just one of the little quirks, It's going to be a big 1-ton Bronco with a 306, because it isn't going to need anything more than that. That thing is so high in the air that it doesn't need to be running down the road, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or whatever. It is what it is. It's going to be, it's a toy, But you need to decide whether or not you're going to keep this project or sell it. If you're selling it, you have everything that you've done to it. Luckily, you've saved all of the lists, you've saved the inventory, you've saved all the receipts. You know what has been done to this car. If you're anything like me, you've got 20,000 videos to show the guy that's buying it. Hey, I had every nut and bolt out of this thing. But what you need to do is, you can't sell it to the first guy that comes look at it, unless that's the right guy. Chances are it's not going to be. You need to find the person who's going to love that vehicle just as much as you did when you built it, so that it gets treated just as well as it would if you still owned it. Because I don't know how they did it, but if you watch Whistling Diesel, he tore up a couple of those really nice trucks. The builders of those trucks, I couldn't have done it. God bless them. I could not have sat idly by while somebody just completely destroyed something that I poured my heart and soul into. I get it, Whistling, you do whatever you want to do, but for a builder, for someone who has put all of that effort into that, it's not about the money. It's not about it's not even about the time. It's about that piece of mechanical bit becomes a part of you. Not so much that, it is still a piece of mechanical, it is what it is. It's not physically an extension of you, but it is, what you did to that shows in the outcome of the project. So just be careful who you sell it to. Make sure it's somebody that's going to take care of it, and someone that, is going to really love the thing like you would. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the whole process, from inception all the way to getting this thing done and deciding whether you want to keep it or sell it. It's not going to be easy. Case in point, like we said, not everybody can do it. You're going to need a lot of help along the way. You're going to need friends, you're going to need family, and you're going to need your wife or your significant other, or even your friends, to understand that nothing is going to stop you from getting this done. It's like I said, it's just one of those things that you just have to put your heart and soul into it to get it there. Because if you're not willing to do that, it's not going to get done. And your project is going to end up on Marketplace, just like it was when you found it. It's going to be a lot closer to being done. Maybe it won't be. Who knows? But good luck. That's all I can say. It is a process. It does take a special person to get all the way through and make it happen. These guys that are building the rotisserie complete restorations that are, 100% concourse, God bless you, because you guys are taking it to the nth degree that I'm not even gonna think about ever doing. Just because that's not me. I'm just not that guy. SEMA cars, I'll probably build something along that caliber someday. But as of right now, KJ keeps these Super Duties coming in and out of the shop. We've constantly got stuff going on. I've got people asking me all the time, hey, you work on cars? Yeah, I do, but I don't necessarily do it for money. We did the Charger for a little bit of spending cash. It got us wood for the winter, so now, I didn't have to dip into any of the project funds for that. So it takes a community to build a car. You're not going to be able to do it on your own. I can't even do it on my own. I need my brothers. I need Kenny. I need my wife, Cheryl. I need my daughter, Julianne. I need everybody's input as we're putting this thing together to be sure that, you know, it's coming out the way that I want it to be. So, all right. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys listening to me ramble here for probably the last half hour or more. I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to do a lot of cuts, a lot of editing. Hopefully it's not as long as it seems. But if you like this sort of thing, if you like just listening to me ramble on about these sorts of topics, let me know. I will absolutely do more of these for you. I want to make sure everybody understands that on my channel, there is such a thing called playlists. Every project has its own playlist. This actually will go into a playlist that I call Let's Talk About It. And that's just essentially me getting out here and BSing to you when I have a moment. KJ's not, he's out helping a friend right now with an OBS, putting a ZF6 back in it. They had a leak on the back of a 7.3, needed to get taken care of. KJ ran over there and helped him out here this evening. So it's one of the good things that he will do for his good buddies. And I'm proud that he is doing it. So that gives me the opportunity to come out and talk to you guys and get this done. In the meantime, Casper's sitting in here. We're working on him. Got the transfer case back in it yesterday. Wheels and tires are going to get mounted tomorrow, so this thing is going to move pretty quick. We did buy another truss for the front end. We're putting a 6-liter front end on this. We've got a bumper sitting here. I believe it's an 08 bumper that we'll put on the back of it. But this truck's going to look completely different when we're done with it. So keep your eyes on that project. And it's got its own playlist as well. You can go back and see when we started and where it goes from there. So I think that's it. I am done talking to you for tonight. We will reconvene at a future date. We also got something special coming up here. I was talking to Garnett Tools. Jaron actually works with me at H&K Equipment.
YouTube, Garnett here. Now that I changed jobs to a dealer that actually knows how to sell equipment.
And he and I are going to get together on a tool giveaway. So be on the lookout for that. There will be a Christmas tool giveaway that he is supplying tools for, but we're giving it away on my channel. So make sure you keep your eyes open for that. And then we're also going to be doing a live as well. I promised you guys a live about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't produced that for you, but we will be doing that shortly. We're going to do kind of maybe a year wrap up, especially since we're coming into December, what we've done this year and what we have planned for next year, where we plan to take the channel and God willing, what's going to happen with Mongo's Garage here in the forthcoming future, at least what we would like to see happen. So, all right, I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys soon. See you later.